Dr. Henry Loomis, this is Zora Bennett on a mission.
Oh my God.
Fortunately for us, all exist in one isolated...
More or less.
More or less?
He's your guy.
We look towards Barbados, avoid government patrol, but there aren't that many to go where we're going.
This island is the research facility.
The three biggest dinosaurs.
Do we have to have samples in the lab?
These dinosaurs are too dangerous for the original park. Please don't say they're actors. We put ourselves in a place we don't belong.
Welcome to Z Cineplex, say your ultimate entertainment destination. Welcome to Z Cineplex, the home of entertainment, creativity, and cinematic excitement. Our channel is dedicated to bringing viewers a rich collection of engaging content that celebrates the world of movies, storytelling, and visual entertainment. Whether you're a passionate film enthusiast, someone who enjoys discovering new cinematic experiences, or simply looking for high-quality entertainment, Z Cineplex is designed to be your go-to destination. We strive to create content that is informative, enjoyable, and engaging for audiences of all ages, offering a unique blend of movie-related features, entertainment updates, insightful discussions, creative videos, and much more. Every upload is crafted with attention to quality, ensuring that our viewers receive an enjoyable experience that keeps them coming back for more. At Z Cineplex, we believe that cinema is more than just watching films. It's about experiencing emotions, exploring stories, appreciating creativity, and connecting with people who share the same passion for entertainment. Our mission is to build a vibrant community where movie lovers and entertainment enthusiasts can discover exciting content, share their opinions, and stay connected with the latest trends in the entertainment industry. We are committed to consistently improving our content, embracing new ideas, and delivering videos that entertain, inform, and inspire our growing audience. Whether you're here for movie highlights, entertainment discussions, reviews, cinematic moments, or fresh creative content, Z Cineplex promises an enjoyable journey filled with excitement, quality, and unforgettable entertainment. Join our community by subscribing, turning on notifications, and becoming part of the Z Cineplex family as we continue to explore the fascinating world of cinema and entertainment together. Thank you for your support, and welcome to Z Cineplex, wherever video brings entertainment to life. Jurassic World Rebirth is a 2025 American science fiction action film directed by Gareth Edwards and written by David Cope, serving as the fourth installment in the Jurassic World series and the seventh film overall in the long-running Jurassic Park franchise. Produced by Frank Marshall and Patrick Crowley, with Steven Spielberg returning as executive producer, the film marks a creative soft reboot for the franchise by introducing a new ensemble cast and a standalone story set several years after the events of Jurassic World Dominion, 2022. The film stars Scarlett Johansson, Michelle Ali, Jonathan Bailey, Rupert Friend, Manuel Garcia-Rolfo, and Ed Skrein in leading roles. Set in a world where cloned dinosaurs have largely disappeared from most regions of Earth due to an inhospitable modern climate, the surviving prehistoric species are now confined primarily to isolated tropical ecosystems around the equator, the last environments capable of sustaining them. The story follows a covert expedition led by a highly skilled operative and a team of scientists who journey to a long-abandoned InGen research island, where three of the largest and most dangerous dinosaur species ever engineered continue to survive. Their mission is to retrieve genetic material that could revolutionize the treatment of life-threatening heart disease, but the operation spirals into chaos when they encounter genetically altered prehistoric predators and become stranded alongside the survivors of a shipwrecked civilian family. Forced to work together, both groups must navigate the island's deadly ecosystem while uncovering long-buried secrets from Jen's abandoned experiments in a desperate struggle for survival. Development of the project began soon after the release of Jurassic World Dominion in 2022, when executive producer Steven Spielberg approached franchise veteran David Koepp to develop a fresh direction for the series. Koepp, who co-wrote the original Jurassic Park, 1993, and wrote The Lost World, Jurassic Park, 1997, crafted a screenplay designed to recapture the suspense, adventure, and scientific intrigues that characterized the early films while introducing new characters and settings. The project was publicly revealed in January 2024, with Gareth Edwards, known for Godzilla, 2014, and Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, 2016, joining as director the following month. Casting quickly assembled a high-profile ensemble led by Scarlett Johansson, Michelle Ali, and Jonathan Bailey. Principal photography took place between June and September 2024 across Thailand, Malta, and the United Kingdom, utilizing extensive locations shooting, large-scale practical sets, sophisticated animatronics, and cutting-edge visual effects to recreate the franchise's signature blend of realism and spectacle. The production reportedly carried a budget estimated between $180 million and $225 million. Jurassic World Rebirth had its world premiere on June 17, 2025, at the Odeon Lux Leicester Square Inches, London, before receiving a wide theatrical release in the United States and Canada on July 2, 2025. Through Universal Pictures, with premium format screenings including IMAX, Dolby Cinema, ScreenX, and 4DX. The film achieved major commercial success, grossing more than $872 million worldwide, making it the sixth highest-grossing film of 2025 and reaffirming the enduring popularity of the Jurassic Park franchise. Critical reception was mixed overall, with reviewers praising Gareth Edwards' atmospheric direction, impressive visual effects, large-scale action sequences, cinematography, and the performances of the principal cast, particularly Scarlett Johansson and Jonathan Bailey. While criticism was directed toward the screenplay, character development, and familiar narrative structure. Nevertheless, many critics regarded it as a notable improvement over the previous Jurassic World installments, citing its stronger emphasis on suspense and survival. The film earned a nomination for Best Visual Effects at the 98th Academy Awards, becoming the first entry in the franchise since The Lost World, Jurassic Park, 1997, to receive an Academy Award nomination in any category. Following its strong box office performance and renewed audience interest, a direct sequel entered development, continuing the franchise's next chapter. Plot: in 2008, the Biotechnology Corporation in Gen secretly operates an advanced genetics research facility on Isle St. Hubert, a remote island hidden within the Atlantic Ocean and isolated from the better-known Jurassic Park and Jurassic World locations. Unlike the company's previous facilities, St. Hubert serves as a classified laboratory dedicated to the creation of experimental transgenic and genetically modified dinosaurs whose unstable mutations make them unsuitable for public attractions. As scientists continually push the boundaries of genetic engineering, many of the resulting creatures develop grotesque physical deformities, unpredictable intelligence, and extreme aggression. Among the laboratory's most dangerous creations is the Destritus Rex, a colossal six-limbed Tyrannosaurus mutation engineered to possess enhanced strength and adaptability. During a routine containment operation, that Destritus Rex breaches its enclosure, triggering a catastrophic system-wide failure that allows numerous other experimental creatures to escape. Unable to contain the outbreak, the scientists and security personnel abandoned the island in an emergency evacuation, leaving the facility and its genetically altered inhabitants isolated from the outside world for nearly 2 decades. By 2025, several years after the events of Jurassic World Dominion, humanity has learned that Earth's modern ecosystem is incapable of supporting large populations of resurrected prehistoric animals. As temperatures, vegetation, and atmospheric conditions prove increasingly hostile, dinosaurs have gradually disappeared from most parts of the world, surviving only within narrow tropical regions surrounding the equator where the climate most closely resembles that of the Mesozoic era. Governments established strict exclusion zones around these regions, prohibiting unauthorized access while allowing the remaining dinosaur populations to exist in relative isolation. Despite these restrictions, major corporations continue searching for ways to profit from prehistoric genetics. Martin Krebs, an ambitious executive working for pharmaceutical giant Parker Genix, approaches former covert operations specialist Zora Bennett with an offer to lead a highly classified expedition. Accompanied by renowned paleontologist Dr. Henry Loomis, the team is tasked with recovering DNA-rich biological samples from 3 of the largest surviving prehistoric species. Parker Genix believes these samples contain unique genetic compounds capable of revolutionizing the treatment of severe cardiovascular disease, potentially becoming one of the greatest medical breakthroughs in history. Accepting the lucrative contract, Zora recruits her longtime friend and expedition leader Duncan Kincaid, experienced maritime pilot Leclerc, mercenary Nina, and security specialist Bobby Atwater to carry out the dangerous mission. Traveling covertly to the forbidden waters surrounding Isle St. Hubert, the expedition plans to collect biological material from 3 specific prehistoric giants: the marine Mosasaurus, the enormous herbivorous Titanosaurus, and the flying Quetzalcoatlus. Before reaching the island, however, they intercept a distress signal from a civilian sailboat captained by Ruben Delgado, who is vacationing with his daughters Teresa and Isabella, along with Teresa's boyfriend Xavier Dobbs. The family's journey turns disastrous when a massive Mosasaurus attacks their vessel, capsizing it and leaving them stranded in open water. Although Martin insists the rescue would jeopardize the classified operation, Zora refuses to abandon innocent civilians, and the expedition diverts course to save the survivors. During the rescue, the Mosasaurus resurfaces and aggressively attacks the ship. Amid the chaos, Henry successfully retrieves a blood sample using a specially designed dart system before the animal retreats. Moments later, the situation worsens when a pack of enormous Spinosaurus emerges from the surrounding waters and launches a coordinated assault on the vessel. Security expert Bobby Atwater is killed while defending the crew, demonstrating the overwhelming danger posed by the island's predators. Martin's increasingly ruthless behavior soon becomes apparent as he places the success of the mission above human life. Determined to prevent any exposure of Parker Genix's illegal expedition, he confiscates communication equipment and deliberately stops Teresa from sending a distress call to outside authorities. During the struggle, Teresa falls overboard, prompting Xavier to dive into the ocean to rescue her, followed by Ruben and Isabella. Their separation from the main expedition leaves the family stranded as the damaged vessel crashes ashore on Isle St. Hubert. During the landing, another Spinosaurus attacks, killing mercenary Nina before disappearing into the jungle. Recognizing the severity of their situation, Zora informs the remaining team members that a rescue helicopter has been scheduled to circle the island after 24 hours if they fail to establish contact, giving them only a limited window to complete the mission and escape alive. Venturing deeper into the island's dense tropical interior, Zora's group eventually encounters a majestic herd of Titanosaurus, allowing Henry to safely extract the second biological sample without provoking the peaceful giants. Their final objective proves significantly more dangerous, requiring the collection of amniotic fluid from a Quetzalcoatlus egg located within a massive nest perched high atop ancient cliffs surrounding the ruins of a forgotten stone temple. Zora, Henry, and Leclerc rappel down into the nesting site, carefully avoiding detection while retrieving the valuable specimen. Before they can escape, however, an adult Quetzalcoatlus returns to defend its offspring. The enormous flying reptile attacks with devastating force, seizing Leclerc and carrying him away before devouring him, while Zora and Henry narrowly escape with the final genetic sample needed to complete their mission. Elsewhere on the island, Ruben and his family struggle to survive without knowledge of the expedition's objectives. Searching desperately for shelter and a functioning radio, they travel through the abandoned InGen complex while encountering numerous dangerous prehistoric animals. Among the strangest is a mutadon, a terrifying genetically engineered hybrid combining the predatory instincts of a velociraptor with the aerial capabilities of a pterosaur. During their journey, young Isabella befriends a small and unusually gentle Aquilops, affectionately naming it Dolores. The tiny dinosaur remains with the family throughout their ordeal, providing rare moments of warmth amid the island's constant danger. After discovering an abandoned inflatable raft, the family attempts to navigate a nearby river but is pursued by a massive Tyrannosaurus Rex, resulting in a tense survival sequence as they narrowly escape becoming its prey. The two groups eventually reunite within the abandoned InGen research complex, where long-hidden truths about the island's experimental breeding program begin to emerge. Teresa exposes Martin's true motives, revealing that Parker Genix intends to monopolize the dinosaur genetics for enormous financial gain rather than develop affordable medical treatments. Refusing to share the discovery, Martin draws a handgun on the survivors, steals the collected biological samples, and flees toward the island's abandoned helipad aboard a utility vehicle. His escape triggers another disaster as swarms of mutants descend upon the remaining survivors, forcing them into the facility's underground tunnels while desperately searching for another route to safety. As the rescue helicopter finally arrives over the island, hope quickly turns to horror when the monstrous Detritus Rex, the same genetically engineered predator responsible for the laboratory disaster years earlier, suddenly emerges from the jungle. The creature attacks with overwhelming force, destroying the helicopter and killing both pilots before any rescue can occur. Trapped underground with the Detritus Rex and the mutants closing in, the survivors reach a locked security gate separating them from an escape boat positioned on the opposite side. Unable to reach the controls, young Isabella courageously squeezes through the narrow bars of the gate despite the approaching mutants. Risking her life, she successfully unlocks the mechanism, allowing everyone to escape moments before the creatures overrun the tunnel. Meanwhile, Martin races toward freedom with the stolen samples, but while attempting to evade the pursuing Detritus Rex, he nearly collides with an Ankylosaurus, forcing his vehicle off the road. The Detritus Rex catches up and brutally devours Martin, ending his attempt to profit from the expedition. Zora recovers the valuable genetic samples from the wreckage before escaping to the waiting boat. To buy everyone enough time to launch, Duncan bravely distracts the Detritus Rex by drawing its attention with a burning flare, apparently sacrificing himself as the others flee. Zora, Henry, Ruben, Teresa, Xavier, Isabella, and Dolores successfully escape the island aboard the boat. Moments later, Duncan unexpectedly survives his confrontation with the Detritus Rex and signals the departing vessel, allowing the group to rescue him before leaving the island behind. Reflecting on the countless lives lost because of corporate greed and scientific exploitation, Zora and Henry reject Parker Genix's plans for exclusive ownership of the dinosaur DNA. Instead, they decide to release the genetic material as an open-source scientific resource, ensuring that any future medical breakthroughs derived from the prehistoric samples will be freely available to researchers and patients around the world rather than controlled by a single corporation. As the survivors sail away from Isle St. Hubert, they leave behind the island's deadly prehistoric ecosystem, while the remaining dinosaurs continue to roam freely, preserving the enduring mystery and danger of the lost world. Scarlett Johansson stars as Zora Bennett, a highly skilled covert operations specialist and former military contractor renowned for her expertise in high-risk extraction missions, tactical planning, and survival in hostile environments. Recruited by pharmaceutical corporation Parker Genix to lead a top-secret expedition to the Forbidden Island of Isle St. Hubert, Zora serves as the film's central protagonist. Resourceful, disciplined, and morally principled, she gradually becomes conflicted over the true purpose of the mission and ultimately chooses to protect innocent lives over corporate interests, emerging as the group's primary leader and moral compass. Michelle Ali portrays Duncan Kincaid, a seasoned expedition commander, survival expert, and longtime trusted associate of Zora Bennett. Duncan is responsible for organizing and leading the dangerous field operation, relying on years of military and wilderness experience to keep the team alive under increasingly perilous circumstances. Calm, dependable, and courageous, He repeatedly places himself in harm's way to protect his companions and ultimately risks his life distracting the monstrous Detritus Rex so the others can escape the island. Jonathan Bailey plays Dr. Henry Loomis, an accomplished paleontologist and dinosaur behavioral specialist recruited by Parker Genix for his extensive scientific knowledge of prehistoric species. Unlike the corporation funding the expedition, Henry is motivated by genuine scientific curiosity and a desire to use dinosaur genetics for the benefit of humanity. Throughout the mission, he develops a close partnership with Zora while becoming increasingly disturbed by the company's unethical intentions. His expertise proves essential in locating and safely collecting the biological samples, and he ultimately joins Zora in making the dinosaur genetic material freely available to the world rather than allowing it to become a corporate monopoly. Rupert Friend appears as Martin Krebs, an ambitious and calculating pharmaceutical executive representing Parker Genix. As the financial sponsor of the expedition, Martin is determined to obtain genetic samples from the island's surviving dinosaurs to develop a revolutionary treatment for cardiovascular disease, with enormous commercial profits as his primary objective. Ruthless and manipulative, he repeatedly prioritizes the success of the mission over human life, conceals the expedition's true purpose from the team, and ultimately betrays the survivors by attempting to steal the collected samples for exclusive corporate ownership. His greed ultimately leads to his death when he is caught and devoured by the genetically engineered Detritus Rex. Manuel Garcia Rulfo portrays Ruben Delgado, a devoted father who becomes an unwilling participant in the expedition's deadly events after a family sailing vacation ends in disaster. Traveling near Isle St. Hubert with his daughters and his eldest daughter's boyfriend, Ruben struggles to protect his family after their boat is destroyed by a Mosasaurus attack. Determined, resilient, and fiercely protective, he guides his family through the island's dangerous jungles while confronting numerous prehistoric predators and eventually joins forces with Zora's expedition in their shared fight for survival. Ed Skrein plays Bobby Atwater, the expedition's experienced security specialist and tactical operative. As one of Zora's trusted teammates, Bobby provides armed protection during the mission and helps defend the group against the island's increasingly aggressive dinosaur population. His professionalism and combat skills make him a valuable member of the expedition, but he is tragically killed during a brutal attack by a pack of Spinosaurus while attempting to protect the others aboard their vessel. David Iacono portrays Xavier Dobbs, the adventurous and compassionate boyfriend of Teresa Delgado. Initially joining the Delgado family's sailing trip as an ordinary civilian, Xavier is unexpectedly thrust onto a life-or-death struggle after their encounter with the Mosasaurus. Despite having no survival training, he repeatedly demonstrates courage and selflessness, risking his own life to rescue Teresa after she falls into the ocean and helping the family survive numerous encounters with dangerous dinosaurs throughout the island. Luna Blaze plays Teresa Delgado, Ruben Delgado's eldest daughter and Xavier's girlfriend. Intelligent, determined, and resourceful, Teresa quickly recognizes Martin Krebs' growing ruthlessness and attempts to contact outside authorities after realizing the true nature of the expedition. Her refusal to remain silent exposes Martin's betrayal of the group, making her one of the film's strongest civilian characters and an important ally in the survivors' efforts to escape the island. Audrina Miranda portrays Isabella Delgado, Ruben's youngest daughter, whose curiosity and optimism provide moments of emotional warmth amid the film's relentless tension. During the family's journey across Isle St. Hubert, she befriends a small Aquilops dinosaur that she affectionately names Dolores, forming an unlikely bond that contrasts with the island's many deadly predators. Isabella later displays remarkable bravery by squeezing through a narrow security gate to unlock it from the opposite side, allowing the survivors to escape the pursuing mutants and Detritus Rex. Beaker Sylvain appears as Leclerc, a French-speaking member of Zora Bennett's expedition team and the group's skilled maritime pilot, responsible for transporting the team safely through the dangerous waters surrounding Isle St. Hubert. Leclerc remains a loyal and dependable member of the expedition. During the mission to obtain a Quetzalcoatlus egg sample, he is attacked and killed by an adult Quetzalcoatlus while helping Zora and Henry escape from the creature's nesting site. Philippine Velge portrays Nina, a capable mercenary and field operative assigned to Zora Bennett's expedition. Armed with extensive combat experience and survival skills, Nina assists in protecting the scientific team during their journey across the island. She remains committed to the mission despite the escalating danger but ultimately becomes one of its earliest casualties when she is killed during a violent Spinosaurus attack after the expedition's vessel crashes ashore on Isle St. Hubert. The development of Jurassic World Rebirth was rooted in Universal Pictures' desire to redefine the direction of the Jurassic Park franchise following the conclusion of the Jurassic World trilogy with Jurassic World Dominion, 2022. Rather than continuing the storyline established by the previous three films, the studio sought to return to the suspense-driven storytelling, scientific intrigue, and grounded sense of adventure that had made the original films enduring classics. Central to this new creative approach was the return of David Koepp, one of the franchise's original architects. Koepp had co-written the screenplay for Steven Spielberg's landmark blockbuster Jurassic Park, 1993, sharing screenplay credit with novelist Michael Crichton, whose best-selling novels Jurassic Park, 1990, and The Lost World, 1995, served as the foundation for the franchise. Koepp later returned as the sole screenwriter for Spielberg's sequel, The Lost World, Jurassic Park, 1997, helping establish many of the narrative themes and storytelling conventions that would define the series. Spielberg directed both films and remained closely involved with every subsequent installment as an executive producer, providing creative oversight while allowing new filmmakers to expand the franchise in different directions. Following The Lost World, Koepp stepped away from writing additional Jurassic films, believing that he had already explored the ideas he wanted to contribute to the series and that there was little new he could add creatively. As a result, he declined several opportunities over the years to return as screenwriter, even as Universal continued expanding the franchise with Jurassic Park 3, 2001, and, years later, the Jurassic World trilogy. Despite his absence from the credited writing team, Koepp remained an occasional creative consultant for the franchise, offering story advice and feedback during the development of later installments. His continued association with the series eventually included uncredited script contributions to Jurassic World Dominion, 2022, reflecting his ongoing relationship with executive producer Steven Spielberg and Universal Pictures, even though his involvement remained largely behind the scenes. Meanwhile, filmmaker Colin Trevorrow became the principal creative force behind the Jurassic World trilogy, directing Jurassic World, 2015, and co-writing all three films released between 2015 and 2022. Over approximately 9 years, Trevorrow helped shape the franchise's modern direction, expanding its scale from a single dinosaur theme park to a world in which prehistoric animals coexisted with humanity. Following the completion of Jurassic World Dominion, Trevorrow publicly stated that he viewed the trilogy as a complete narrative and did not expect to return for another feature film in a major creative capacity, suggesting that he might only participate as an informal advisor if needed. Ultimately, he had no creative involvement in Jurassic World Rebirth, marking the first Jurassic film in over a decade to be developed entirely without his participation. His departure allowed Universal to pursue a fresh creative vision led by David Koepp and director Gareth Edwards, signaling a deliberate transition toward a new era for the franchise while preserving its connection to the original films through the return of key legacy creatives such as Koepp and Spielberg. Development of Jurassic World Rebirth began shortly after the theatrical release of Jurassic World Dominion in 2022, as Universal Pictures and executive producer Steven Spielberg started exploring a new creative direction for the long-running Jurassic Park franchise. Although Dominion concluded the narrative established across the Jurassic World trilogy, Spielberg believed the franchise still possessed significant storytelling potential if it shifted away from the increasingly large-scaled, global spectacle of the previous films. Early in the development process, Spielberg conceived an original story idea that would ultimately become the foundation of Jurassic World Rebirth, seeking to reconnect the series with the suspense, mystery, and scientific curiosity that characterized the original films. he approached franchise veteran David Koepp, who had co-written Jurassic Park, 1993, and written The Lost World, Jurassic Park, 1997, to discuss writing an entirely new installment. Initially, their conversations centered on Spielberg's concept, but the two filmmakers soon began exchanging additional ideas, gradually shaping a story that would serve as a fresh starting point for the franchise. Koepp, who had previously declined opportunities to return because he believed he had exhausted his creative contributions to the series, ultimately accepted the project after learning how deeply Spielberg intended to participate in its development. Over the course of approximately 6 months, Spielberg and Koepp worked closely together, refining the screenplay and establishing a creative vision that deliberately emphasized suspense, grounded adventure, scientific realism, and character-driven storytelling in an effort to recapture the atmosphere of the original Jurassic Park trilogy, particularly the tone and sense of discovery found in the 1993 film. One of the earliest creative decisions made by Spielberg and Koepp was to treat Jurassic World Rebirth as the beginning of a new chapter rather than a direct continuation of the previous trilogy. Since both the original Jurassic Park trilogy and the Jurassic World trilogy had reached natural narrative conclusions, the filmmakers concluded that they should not be constrained by existing protagonists or unresolved storylines. Instead, they chose to introduce an entirely new ensemble cast, a previously unseen island setting, and an original standalone narrative while remaining firmly within the established continuity of the franchise. Koepp explained that this approach provided significantly greater creative freedom, allowing the filmmakers to explore new characters, ethical dilemmas, and survival scenarios without relying heavily on legacy characters or nostalgic callbacks. The objective was to create a film that could be enjoyed by longtime fans while remaining accessible to newcomers unfamiliar with previous installments. A major influence on the screenplay was Koepp's desire to return the franchise to its original premise of humans entering a dinosaur-controlled environment rather than continuing the worldwide coexistence between humans and dinosaurs established in Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, 2018, and Jurassic World Dominion, 2022. Koepp believed that the concept of dinosaurs living throughout modern civilization had already been explored extensively and offered limited opportunities for creating the contained suspense that defined the earlier films. In his view, once dinosaurs existed everywhere on Earth, virtually any scenario became possible, making it increasingly difficult to generate tension and narrative focus. By restricting the story to a single isolated island inhabited by dangerous prehistoric creatures, Koepp felt he could create a more tightly constructed thriller in which the limitations of the environment enhanced both the suspense and the emotional stakes. He later remarked that these creative limitations actually made writing Jurassic World Rebirth easier than crafting the previous Jurassic World films, whose increasingly expansive global scope had become difficult to manage narratively. As Spielberg and Koepp continued shaping the story, they developed the concept of St. Hubert, a previously undisclosed InGen research facility that had secretly conducted advanced genetic experimentation beyond the public knowledge of Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. Having established the setting, the filmmakers then needed a compelling reason for a group of characters to voluntarily enter such a dangerous location. While researching dinosaur biology and paleontology, Koepp discovered scientific studies suggesting that several exceptionally large dinosaur species may have possessed remarkably long lifespans and unusually low incidences of cardiovascular disease. This research inspired one of the screenplay's central narrative ideas that the DNA of surviving prehistoric animals might contain biological compounds capable of revolutionizing the treatment of human heart disease. The resulting storyline centers on a pharmaceutical corporation sending an expedition to retrieve genetic samples from 3 enormous dinosaur species in hopes of developing a breakthrough cardiovascular therapy capable of saving millions of lives. Although fictionalized, the premise received support from Ben Lamb, co-founder of biotechnology company Colossal Biosciences, who commented that the concept reflected a genuine scientific principle, that countless undiscovered biological compounds and potential medical breakthroughs may exist within species that have become endangered or extinct. Another major creative element introduced during development involved the film's genetically engineered mutant dinosaurs. Rather than inventing hybrid creatures solely for spectacle, Spielberg and Cope explored the logical consequences of InGen's decades of experimental genetic engineering. They reasoned that not every attempt to combine prehistoric and modern DNA would have produced successful or stable organisms. Many experiments, they believed, would inevitably have resulted in failed mutations, physical deformities, and dangerously unpredictable animals that the company would have hidden from public view. This concept led directly to the creation of the film's terrifying new antagonists, including the colossal Detritus Rex and the predatory Mutadens, creatures designed to represent the darker side of genetic experimentation and the ethical consequences of manipulating nature beyond scientific control. Cope explained that these mutations felt like a natural evolution of concepts previously introduced through hybrid dinosaurs such as the Indominus Rex and Indoraptor, while simultaneously reinforcing one of the franchise's central themes that humanity's attempts to control evolution inevitably produce unintended and often catastrophic results. During early drafts of the screenplay, Cope originally envisioned a more substantial role for security specialist Bobby Atwater, including a storyline in which the character would eventually ally himself with pharmaceutical executive Martin Krebs and read the rest of the expedition. As the screenplay evolved, however, this subplot was removed to streamline the narrative and maintain its focus on survival. Before beginning the writing process in earnest, Cope immersed himself in the franchise's history by rewatching all 6 previous Jurassic films and rereading Michael Crichton's original Jurassic Park and the Lost World novels for the first time in nearly 3 decades. Revisiting the source material inspired him to incorporate several elements that had never previously appeared on screen. Most notably, Jurassic World Rebirth adapts the famous Tyrannosaurus Rex river raft sequence from Crichton's original Jurassic Park novel, a suspense sequence that Spielberg had intended to include in the 1993 film but ultimately omitted because of technological and budgetary limitations. Cope also incorporated a philosophical monologue delivered by Dr. Henry Loomis that originated in Crichton's novel, further strengthening the screenplay's scientific and ethical themes. Additionally, the film includes a line of dialogue originally written by Cope for Dr. Ian Malcolm during early drafts of Jurassic Park, 1993, but never used in the finished film, providing longtime fans with a subtle connection to the franchise's earliest development. Although the screenplay featured dinosaurs and remained consistent with the established continuity of the Jurassic Park universe, Cope was given considerable creative freedom and was not required to follow a predetermined studio storyline. Instead, he established several guiding principles for himself before writing the script. Among these self-imposed rules was a commitment to grounding the film's scientific concepts in plausible biological research wherever possible, avoiding contradictions or retcons involving events from previous installments, maintaining a balance between suspense and humor, and ensuring that the dinosaurs, particularly the non-mutated species, were portrayed as wild animals rather than traditional movie monsters. Cope emphasized that most prehistoric creatures in the film attack humans not out of malice, but because of instinctive behaviors such as territorial defense, predation, or protecting their offspring. This approach was intended to restore the ecological realism that had distinguished the earliest entries in the series while reserving overtly monstrous behavior primarily for the genetically mutated experimental species. By September 2023, Cope had begun writing the screenplay full-time, completing an initial draft approximately 3 months later. Longtime franchise producers Frank Marshall and Patrick Crowley, who had produced all 3 Jurassic World films, returned to oversee the project. Although both producers expected Universal would eventually develop another installment following Dominion, they were initially unaware that Spielberg and Cope had already begun crafting a new story until the first screenplay draft was delivered. With Universal targeting a mid-2025 theatrical release, Marshall and Crowley were surprised by the unusually compressed production schedule, which allowed significantly less preparation time than previous entries in the franchise. After reviewing the screenplay and assessing the project's production requirements, however, they concluded that the timetable was achievable, enabling pre-production to move forward rapidly while maintaining the large-scale filmmaking, practical effects, and visual spectacle expected of one of Hollywood's flagship blockbuster franchises. Pre-production on Jurassic World Rebirth accelerated rapidly in early 2024, following several months of confidential development at Universal Pictures. The project was officially unveiled in late January 2024, when industry reports revealed that Universal had begun production on a new installment in the Jurassic Park franchise. Unlike previous entries, the film was conceived as a creative soft reboot intended to launch a new era for the series while remaining within the established continuity. Longtime franchise producers Frank Marshall and Patrick Crowley returned to produce the film through the Kennedy Marshall Company, continuing their involvement from the Jurassic World trilogy, while Steven Spielberg once again served as executive producer through Amblin Entertainment, providing creative oversight and helping shape the project's overall direction. Although the announcement came as a surprise to much of the film industry, development had actually been underway for several months behind closed doors. By the time the project became public, David Koepp had already completed multiple screenplay drafts in close collaboration with Spielberg, and much of the film's narrative structure, tone, and major action sequences had already been firmly established. Significant pre-production work had also been completed, including early concept art, creature designs, production planning, and visual development for many of the film's new dinosaurs and genetically engineered mutant species. Because so much creative groundwork had already been finalized before a director was selected, the production was designed to be considerably more producer-driven than previous franchise installments, allowing Universal and Spielberg to maintain tighter creative control over the project following the mixed critical reception of Jurassic World Dominion, 2022. The search for a director began shortly before the public announcement of the film. Universal sought a filmmaker capable of executing Koepp's completed screenplay while delivering visually spectacular action sequences and maintaining the suspenseful atmosphere that Spielberg envisioned. Rather than searching for an auteur who would substantially rewrite or reshape the project, the studio reportedly described the role as that of a filmmaker who could faithfully bring an already well-developed vision to the screen. This represented a notable departure from the creative approach taken on Jurassic World Dominion, where director Colin Trevorrow exercised significantly greater influence over the story and production. Universal's revised strategy reflected its intention to emphasize consistency with Spielberg's creative vision while ensuring that the franchise returned to the tone of the earlier films. During early February 2024, filmmaker David Leitch, known for directing Atomic Blonde, 2017, Deadpool 2, 2018, Bullet Train, 2022, and The Fall Guy, 2024, entered negotiations to direct the film. Leitch also had previous experience within the franchise, having served as a second-unit director on Jurassic World, 2015. His involvement was considered a strong possibility for several days, but negotiations ultimately ended without an agreement. Reports indicated that the advanced stage of development left little opportunity for Leitch to contribute creatively or significantly reshape the project, making the collaboration incompatible with his preferred filmmaking style. Around the same period, acclaimed British filmmaker Edgar Wright was also approached regarding the directing position. Although interested in the opportunity, Wright ultimately declined Universal's offer in order to focus on his long-planned adaptation of Stephen King's The Running Man, 2025, a project he had wanted to direct for many years. Later in February 2024, Universal officially announced Gareth Edwards as the film's director. Edwards emerged as the studio's preferred choice because of his distinctive visual storytelling style, his ability to combine large-scale spectacle with intimate human drama, and his extensive experience integrating photorealistic computer-generated creatures into real-world environments. His previous work on Monsters, 2010, Godzilla, 2014, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, 2016, and the creator, 2023, demonstrated a cinematic approach that Universal believed perfectly matched the atmosphere they wanted for Jurassic World Rebirth. Spielberg was reportedly a longtime admirer of Edwards' Godzilla, praising its restrained suspense, scale, and realistic treatment of giant creatures, while Edwards himself had long regarded Spielberg's original Jurassic Park, 1993, as one of his favorite films and one of the primary inspirations for his filmmaking career. His expertise with visual effects-heavy productions and his reputation for seamlessly blending CGI with practical photography also played a significant role in his selection, ensuring that the dinosaurs would appear grounded and believable despite the film's ambitious scale. Interestingly, Edwards had not been actively seeking another major studio production after completing The Creator, 2023. Following the demanding production and release of that film, he intended to step away from large-scale Hollywood filmmaking temporarily in order to concentrate on developing several original projects of his own. At the time Universal contacted him, Edwards was already writing another screenplay and had planned to spend the foreseeable future pursuing independent creative work. However, he later described Jurassic World as the only movie that would make me drop everything like a stone and dive right in, explaining that the opportunity to direct a Jurassic Park film was impossible for him to refuse. Initially exhausted after finishing The Creator, Edwards hoped that reading David Koepp's screenplay would convince him to decline the offer and continue with his planned hiatus. Instead, he found himself deeply impressed by the script's tone, pacing, suspense, and returned to the franchise's roots. After meeting with producers Frank Marshall and Patrick Crowley, followed by extensive discussions with Steven Spielberg regarding the story, themes, and visual direction, Edwards accepted the position and officially joined the production. One of the greatest challenges facing Edwards was the unusually compressed production schedule. With Universal targeting a July 2025 theatrical release, he had less than 18 months to complete a production that would ordinarily require approximately 2.5 years from pre-production through post-production. Early in the process, Edwards suggested delaying the release date to provide additional time for filming and visual effects work. Universal quickly rejected the proposal, remaining committed to its planned summer release window. Although initially concerned about the demanding timetable, Edwards later credited the strength of Koepp's screenplay for making the accelerated schedule possible. Because the script had already undergone extensive development before his arrival, there was little uncertainty regarding the film's narrative direction, allowing every department to move forward with remarkable efficiency. According to Edwards, virtually everyone involved in the production recognized that Koepp's screenplay represented the film they wanted to make, enabling pre-production to proceed smoothly despite the limited timeframe. While respecting the screenplay's established structure, Edwards was encouraged by Koepp to contribute ideas that could further strengthen the film visually and dramatically. Rather than rewriting major story elements, Edwards focused primarily on enhancing individual sequences, emphasizing cinematic suspense, environmental storytelling, and visual immersion. He remained committed to preserving Koepp's carefully balanced combination of humor, adventure, suspense, and horror, although he intentionally amplified the horror elements to create a more intense and atmospheric experience than the previous Jurassic World films. This creative approach reflected both Spielberg's and Koepp's shared desire to recapture the frightening unpredictability and sense of isolation that had defined the original Jurassic Park. Among Edwards' most significant contributions was redesigning several of the film's major action sequences. One notable example involved the Quetzalcoatl's nesting sequence, which Koepp had originally written to take place on a rugged cliffside. Edwards believed the scene would become visually more memorable if relocated to the ruins of an abandoned ancient stone temple hidden within the island's jungle. The revised setting not only provided greater visual spectacle but also reinforced the film's themes of forgotten civilizations and humanity's failed attempts to control nature. Another sequence, originally conceived in a different environment, was reimagined by Edwards as a suspenseful encounter inside a deserted gas station mini-mart, transforming an ordinary modern location into a tense survival scenario reminiscent of classic creature features. Throughout pre-production, Edwards continually refined locations, staging, and cinematography while remaining faithful to Cope's overall narrative. Despite the extraordinary time constraints, Edwards ultimately concluded that the compressed schedule became one of the production's greatest strengths. Rather than allowing the filmmakers to endlessly revise ideas or overcomplicate sequences, the limited preparation period encouraged decisive creative choices and maintained momentum throughout production. Edwards later reflected that having less time prevented unnecessary experimentation and forced everyone involved to trust their instincts, commenting that excessive preparation often leads filmmakers to overthink decisions, whereas the accelerated schedule kept the project focused and creatively efficient. The result was a highly organized pre-production process that laid the foundation for one of the most ambitious and technically sophisticated entries in the Jurassic Park franchise while successfully launching a new chapter in the series under Spielberg's renewed creative guidance. Casting for Jurassic World Rebirth represented one of the most significant departures in the history of the Jurassic Park franchise, as the film became the first installment not to feature any returning actors from previous films. Rather than relying on established characters such as Alan Grant, Ellie Sattler, Ian Malcolm, Owen Grady, or Claire Dearing, the filmmakers deliberately assembled an entirely new ensemble cast to support the film's role as a creative soft reboot. This decision reflected Steven Spielberg's, David Cope's, and Gareth Edwards' shared vision of beginning a new chapter in this franchise while maintaining continuity with the previous 6 films. By introducing fresh protagonists with no direct ties to earlier stories, the filmmakers hoped to provide audiences with a standalone adventure that could attract both longtime fans and newcomers without requiring extensive knowledge of the franchise's previous narratives. The casting process officially began in March 2024 and continued over the following several months as Universal Pictures sought performers capable of balancing the film's action, suspense, emotional drama, and scientific themes. Because the screenplay emphasized character-driven survival rather than spectacle alone, the production prioritized actors who could convincingly portray individuals placed under extraordinary pressure. Director Gareth Edwards worked closely with producers Frank Marshall and Patrick Crowley, executive producer Steven Spielberg, and screenwriter David Cope throughout the casting process, carefully assembling an ensemble whose chemistry would support the film's grounded tone and ensemble-driven storytelling. By early summer 2024, the principal cast had been finalized ahead of the start of photography. The role of the film's protagonist, Zora Bennett, attracted considerable interest during development. Universal reportedly considered several prominent actresses for the part, including Jennifer Lawrence, who was offered the role but ultimately declined to participate. The part eventually went to Scarlett Johansson, whose casting proved especially meaningful because she had been an enthusiastic admirer of the Jurassic Park franchise since the release of Steven Spielberg's original film in 1993. For more than a decade, Johansson had expressed a strong desire to appear in a Jurassic film and had repeatedly informed her representatives that joining the franchise was one of her long-term career goals. When she learned that a new installment was being developed, Johansson personally arranged a meeting with Steven Spielberg and expressed her interest in becoming involved in any capacity. After Gareth Edwards joined the project as director, Spielberg informed him of Johansson's enthusiasm for the series. Edwards immediately recognized her as an ideal choice to lead the film, believing she possessed the combination of intelligence, physical presence, dramatic ability, and action experience required for the character. Johansson was subsequently cast as Zora Bennett, an elite covert operations specialist leading the expedition to Isle St. Hubert. Following her casting, she collaborated extensively with David Cope to further refine Zora's personality, motivations, emotional arc, and leadership qualities, helping shape the character into the film's central protagonist and moral compass. The role of Dr. Henry Loomis, the expedition's paleontologist and scientific expert, was awarded to Jonathan Bailey. According to Gareth Edwards, Bailey's casting was strongly supported by Universal executives, who had been deeply impressed by his acclaimed performance in the 2024 musical fantasy film Wicked. Edwards agreed that Bailey possessed the intelligence, warmth, and enthusiasm needed to portray a scientist driven by genuine curiosity rather than corporate ambition. His performance was designed to evoke comparisons with the franchise's classic paleontologists while establishing Henry as a distinctly modern character whose scientific integrity becomes increasingly important as the story unfolds. Before Bailey's casting, actor Glenn Powell was reportedly in discussions to portray Henry Loomis. Powell, who had previously voiced the character Dave in the animated Netflix series Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, 2028-2022, ultimately declined the opportunity. Explaining his decision, Powell stated that he believed another actor would bring greater depth and authenticity to the role, remarking that there's somebody better that's gonna breathe more life into this, or can do a better job than I can, and adding that recognizing when another performer is better suited for a role is an important part of an actor's career. Academy Award winner Michelle Ali joined the cast as Duncan Kincaid, the veteran expedition leader and longtime associate of Zora Bennett. Ali's casting added considerable prestige to the production, with the filmmakers seeking an actor capable of portraying both physical authority and emotional depth. His character serves as the expedition's experienced survival expert and tactical leader, balancing Zora's strategic decision-making with wisdom gained from years of dangerous field operations. Edwards later praised Ali's ability to bring quiet strength, compassion, and authenticity to the role, making Duncan one of the film's most respected and dependable characters. Manuel Garcia-Rolfo was cast as Ruben Delgado, a devoted father whose family becomes stranded on Isle St. Hubert after a devastating Mosasaurus attack destroys their sailboat. Gareth Edwards revealed that he decided to cast Garcia-Rolfo after watching his performance in the legal drama television series The Lincoln Lawyer, where the actor's ability to portray resilience, vulnerability, and determination convinced Edwards that he would be ideal for the emotionally demanding role. As Ruben, Garcia-Rolfo anchors much of the film's family-oriented storyline, portraying an ordinary man forced to confront extraordinary dangers while struggling to protect his children from the island's prehistoric predators. Rupert Friend was selected to portray Martin Krebs, the ambitious pharmaceutical executive whose corporate greed ultimately drives much of the film's central conflict. Edwards explained that he became interested in casting Friend after being impressed by one of the actor's performances in the acclaimed television series Homeland, believing Friend possessed the subtle charisma necessary to portray a character whose true intentions gradually emerge over the course of the story. Rather than depicting Martin as a conventional villain, Friend worked closely with David Cope to add greater complexity and nuance to the character, emphasizing his intelligence, ambition, and belief that his morally questionable actions could ultimately produce enormous medical benefits for humanity. The supporting cast continued to expand with the addition of several rising actors portraying members of both the expedition team and the stranded civilian family. Luna Blaze was cast as Teresa Delgado, Ruben's determined and resourceful eldest daughter, while David Diacono joined the film as Xavier Dobbs, Teresa's devoted boyfriend whose courage repeatedly helps the family survive the island's many dangers. Audrina Miranda was cast as Isabella Delgado, Ruben's youngest daughter, whose compassion and curiosity lead her to befriend the young Aquilops dinosaur she names Dolores, providing some of the film's most heartfelt emotional moments. B.A. Tilde copyright Cher Sylvain joined the cast as Leclerc, the expedition's French-speaking maritime pilot responsible for transporting the team through the dangerous waters surrounding Isle St. Hubert. The ensemble was further strengthened by the casting of Ed Skrena's security specialist Bobby Atwater and Philippine Veljaz mercenary Nina, both serving as experienced members of Zora Bennett's expedition whose military expertise proves vital during the mission. By the conclusion of casting, Jurassic World Rebirth featured one of the franchise's most diverse and internationally recognized ensembles, combining Academy Award winners, established dramatic performers, acclaimed television actors, and emerging young talent. The filmmakers intentionally assembled a cast capable of emphasizing realistic character relationships, emotional authenticity, and ensemble chemistry over nostalgic connections to previous installments. This fresh lineup ultimately reinforced the film's identity as the beginning of a new era for the Jurassic Park franchise, while remaining faithful to the adventurous spirit, scientific wonder, and survival-driven storytelling that have defined the series for more than 3 decades. Principal photography for Jurassic World Rebirth was designed to recapture the visual style and filmmaking philosophy of Steven Spielberg's original Jurassic Park, 1993, with director Gareth Edwards emphasizing practical locations, natural lighting, large-scale physical sets, and cinematic realism over extensive green screen photography. Acclaimed cinematographer John Mathieson, known for his work on films such as Gladiator, 2000, Kingdom of Heaven, 2005, and Logan, 2017, served as director of photography. Working closely with Edwards, Mathieson sought to recreate the organic, immersive aesthetic of the original Jurassic Park while combining it with modern filmmaking techniques. In a notable departure from Edwards' previous productions, Jurassic World Rebirth became the first film in his career to be photographed entirely on 35mm motion picture film, a decision intended to evoke the texture, warmth, and cinematic appearance of Spielberg's 1993 classic. Edwards believed that shooting on film would provide a more timeless visual quality and create a stronger emotional connection between the audience and the natural environments in which the story unfolds. To achieve this distinctive aesthetic, the production utilized Panaflex Millennium XL2 cameras fitted primarily with vintage Panavision C-Series and E-Series anamorphic lenses, which produced the soft contrast, natural lens flares, and subtle optical imperfections associated with classic Hollywood adventure films. The cleaner rendering E-Series lenses became the filmmaker's preferred choice for much of the production, helping maintain visual consistency while preserving a cinematic, analog appearance. Additional equipment included an ARRI 235 camera for dynamic handheld photography during action sequences, together with the selection of ANG8 copyright NEOX and delete zoom lenses that allowed rapid reframing during complex dinosaur encounters. The film was photographed in the 2.40:1 anamorphic widescreen aspect ratio, reinforcing the expansive scale of its landscapes while maintaining an intimate focus on the characters. Many of the jungle sequences set at night were created using sophisticated day-for-night cinematography, allowing the crew to shoot during daylight while digitally transforming the footage into convincing nighttime scenes. This technique significantly reduced the enormous logistical challenges of lighting dense tropical forests in remote locations while preserving the natural atmosphere of the environments. The production used Kodak Vision 3 film stock throughout principal photography, with exposed negatives shipped to the Kodak Film Laboratory in the United Kingdom for processing. During post-production, the scanned negatives underwent a digital intermediate utilizing a vintage Kodak print emulation lookup table, LED, while color grading was intentionally kept minimal in order to preserve the natural grain structure, color reproduction, and photochemical appearance of the original film stock. Before filming began, the production extensively evaluated several international locations to portray the fictional island of St. Hubert. Countries including Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, Mauritius, and Panama were seriously considered because of their lush tropical landscapes and biodiversity. After Gareth Edwards officially joined the project, however, he proposed returning to Thailand, where he had previously filmed The Creator, 2023. Having first-hand experience with the country's dense rainforests, dramatic limestone cliffs, secluded beaches, and untouched coastal environments, Edwards believed Thailand could convincingly represent an isolated prehistoric ecosystem unlike anything previously depicted in the franchise. Steven Spielberg, producers Frank Marshall and Patrick Crowley, and Universal Pictures immediately approved the proposal, recognizing that Thailand's diverse natural scenery perfectly matched David Cope's vision of St. Hubert. Edwards remained committed to filming as much of the movie as possible on real locations rather than relying on virtual production stages or extensive digital environments. To help achieve this goal, he reunited with James Klein, the production designer from The Creator, who oversaw the creation of both elaborate studio sets and realistic environmental extensions. As production progressed, Spielberg gradually stepped back from day-to-day creative involvement, entrusting Edwards with complete artistic control. After reviewing early footage, or dailies, which reportedly impressed him with their visual quality and faithfulness to the franchise's original atmosphere. Principal photography officially commenced on June 13, 2024, under the working title Saga, with the first stage of production taking place across Thailand over approximately 1 month. Filming occurred in several spectacular natural locations, including Khao Phan Bancha National Park in Krabi Province, Kokradan within Hat Jamai National Park in Trang Province, and Ao Phang Nga National Park in Phang Nga Province. These lush tropical jungles, towering limestone formations, pristine coastlines, and dense mangrove forests became the primary visual inspiration for the fictional island of Azul St. Hubert. Sunset Beach on Kokradan served as the location where Duncan Kincaid's expedition boat crashes onto the island, marking the beginning of the survivor's ordeal. The peaceful Titanosaurus encounter was filmed on agricultural land in Dabprik, Krabi. Creating this sequence presented an unexpected challenge after severe drought conditions prevented the production from growing the tall grass required for the scene. To overcome the problem, James Klein's art department hired a horticultural specialist from England, who designed and installed an extensive irrigation system that transformed the location into the lush prehistoric landscape envisioned by the filmmakers. Production in Thailand also involved significant environmental hazards, with cast and crew working amid venomous water snakes, tropical insects, extreme humidity, unpredictable weather, and dense jungle terrain. The decision to shoot on 35mm film introduced an additional logistical complication, as exposed negatives had to be carefully transported by air to England for processing before anyone could confirm that the footage had been successfully captured. Executive producer Dennis Stewart later recalled that the production often waited several days before receiving processed dailies, creating constant uncertainty about whether completed scenes might require reshoots. Fortunately, every shipment arrived safely, and no significant footage was lost during production. Following the completion of the Thailand schedule, filming relocated in July 2024 to the Malta Film Studios in Kalkara, Malta, where the production concentrated primarily on the film's extensive marine action sequences. Malta's renowned water tank facilities enable the filmmakers to recreate the dangerous open ocean encounters involving the enormous Mosasaurus and the pack of Spinosaurus with a combination of practical effects and digital animation. While some exterior scenes were filmed on the nearby Mediterranean Sea, many of the most technically demanding shots were staged inside the studio's massive water tanks. Several large boats were mounted on sophisticated hydraulic gimbal systems designed by Academy Award-winning special effects supervisor Neil Corbett, a longtime collaborator of Gareth Edwards, allowing vessels to tilt, rotate, and violently simulate attacks by gigantic marine reptiles. Interestingly, much of this material was filmed without water inside the tanks, enabling visual effects artists to digitally add oceans, waves, and splashes later in post-production. Edwards described the ocean sequences as some of the most technically difficult scenes he had ever filmed, citing the combination of practical effects, complicated camera movement, and extensive visual effects integration. Scarlett Johansson later recalled the physically demanding conditions, describing days spent under intense Mediterranean sunlight while performing action sequences aboard elevated hydraulic rigs that rocked violently as powerful water cannons simulated crashing waves, calling the experience brutal despite the impressive results achieved on screen. Production entered its final stage in August 2024, when filming moved to London and Sky Studios L Street in the United Kingdom. Here, the filmmakers constructed many of the film's largest and most elaborate sets, including the abandoned InGen research facility, featuring vast genetics laboratories, underground tunnel systems, containment chambers, and deteriorating experimental environments spread across 3 enormous sound stages. The laboratory complex became the single most expensive set built for the production, reflecting the filmmakers' commitment to creating immersive practical environments rather than relying solely on computer-generated imagery. Additional sets included a dense artificial jungle for interior forest sequences, the abandoned roadside gas station mini-mart, the interior sections of Duncan Kincaid's expedition vessel, and the ancient temple housing the Quetzalcoatl's nesting site. One of the production's most ambitious practical constructions was a 70-foot, 21-meter, artificial cliff face, built specifically for the sequence in which Zora Bennett's team rappels toward the temple. The spectacular waterfall scene during this sequence was later created digitally using reference photography and footage captured at Jog Falls in Karnataka, India, seamlessly integrating practical and digital elements. Elsewhere in London, a museum sequence was filmed inside the historic Old Royal Naval College in Greenwich, whose classical architecture provided an elegant setting for one of the film's early scenes. The film's suspenseful Tyrannosaurus Rex river chase, adapted from Michael Crichton's original Jurassic Park novel, required filming across 2 countries. The opening section of the sequence was photographed at a flooded quarry in Thailand, while the remainder was completed at the Lee Valley Whitewater Centre in Hertfordshire, England. To transform the modern whitewater facility into a prehistoric river system, the production added extensive practical rock formations and vegetation before visual effects artists digitally enhanced the surrounding landscape. Several cast members underwent specialized physical training to perform their own action scenes. Manuel Garcia-Rolfo completed many of his own stunts, while both Garcia-Rolfo and David Iacono received professional scuba diving instruction to safely perform the film's underwater sequences. Rupert Friend filmed Martin Krebs' death scene suspended on an elaborate wire rig before digital artists inserted the attacking Destritus Rex during post-production. One of the most significant story changes occurred during filming after Michelle Ali joined the cast. David Cope's screenplay originally concluded with Duncan Kincaid sacrificing himself and dying during his confrontation with the Destritus Rex. Universal Pictures, however, believed that Ali's popularity and star power made the character too valuable to lose. Although Edwards and Ali initially preferred the original ending, the studio requested that an additional sequence be filmed during production in Thailand showing Duncan surviving the encounter. Edwards ultimately chose to incorporate this alternate material into the completed film, allowing Duncan to reunite with the other survivors during the final escape. Throughout production, David Cope remained closely involved despite completing the screenplay before filming began. During the final weeks of photography in London, he worked directly on set with Gareth Edwards and remained continuously available via text message throughout production to discuss dialogue adjustments and narrative refinements. Edwards occasionally requested minor rewrites only minutes before cameras rolled, allowing scenes to evolve naturally while preserving the screenplay's overall structure. Principal photography officially concluded on September 27, 2024, after approximately 3.5 months of filming across Thailand, Malta, and the United Kingdom. Several weeks later, a brief schedule of pickup photography was completed in New York City to capture additional exterior material and transitional shots required for the finished edit. By the end of production, Jurassic World Rebirth had become one of the franchise's most ambitious location-based productions, blending practical filmmaking, large-scale physical sets, analog cinematography, and cutting-edge visual effects to create the cinematic experience that intentionally honored the visual legacy of Spielberg's original Jurassic Park while introducing a bold new chapter for the series. Universal Pictures launched an extensive global marketing campaign for Jurassic World Rebirth, positioning the film as both a fresh beginning for the Jurassic Park franchise and a return to the suspense, wonder, and adventure that defined Steven Spielberg's original 1993 classic. Rather than emphasizing the large-scale global spectacle that characterized the later Jurassic World films, the campaign highlighted the film's isolated jungle setting, survival horror atmosphere, practical filmmaking, and grounded storytelling. Marketing materials consistently presented Jurassic World Rebirth as a spiritual successor to the original Jurassic Park, appealing to longtime fans while introducing a new generation of audiences to the franchise. Universal's promotional strategy centered on Gareth Edwards' cinematic direction, David Cope's return as screenwriter, the all-new ensemble cast led by Scarlett Johansson and Michelle Ali, and the introduction of previously unseen dinosaur species and genetically engineered mutant predators. The film's official title, Jurassic World Rebirth, along with its first 2 promotional images, was unveiled on August 29, 2024, providing audiences with their first look at Scarlett Johansson's Zora Bennett and the film's lush tropical environments. The announcement immediately generated widespread discussion among fans and entertainment media, particularly because the title suggested the beginning of a new era for the franchise following the conclusion of the Jurassic World trilogy. Universal subsequently emphasized that the film would deliberately return to the suspense-driven style of Jurassic Park, 1993, describing it as a tribute to the tone, atmosphere, and sense of discovery that had made Spielberg's original film a landmark in modern blockbuster cinema. As anticipation grew, Universal gradually expanded the promotional campaign through the release of additional production stills, behind-the-scenes photographs, and character images that showcase the film's principal cast, expansive jungle locations, and practical production design. These preview materials highlighted Gareth Edwards' emphasis on real-world environments, practical effects, and large-scale location photography while offering audiences brief glimpses of several new dinosaur species without revealing the film's major surprises. The strategy intentionally preserved much of the mystery surrounding the genetically engineered mutant creatures, allowing audiences to discover them during the theatrical experience rather than through promotional material. The film's first official trailer premiered on February 5, 2025, following weeks of teaser images and promotional stills released across Universal's social media platforms and entertainment outlets. Running just over 2 minutes, the trailer focused on introducing the film's central premise, the new expedition team, and the dangerous mission to retrieve dinosaur DNA from the isolated island of St. Hubert. It showcased breathtaking tropical cinematography, tense survival sequences, encounters with iconic dinosaurs such as the Mosasaurus, Titanosaurus, Quetzalcoatlus, and Tyrannosaurus rex, while offering only brief glimpses of the terrifying Destritus rex and the Mutadens, thereby preserving much of the film's suspense. The trailer received widespread attention from fans and critics, with many praising its atmospheric tone, realistic visual effects, and apparent return to the suspenseful style of the original Jurassic Park. Writing for Empire, critic Ben Travis described the footage as visually stunning, noting that its sense of scale, tension, and cinematic style strongly evoked Spielberg's 1993 masterpiece. Universal further increased the film's visibility during one of television's largest annual events by debuting a 60-second television spot during Super Bowl Licks on February 9, 2025. The commercial featured newly revealed action footage, including large-scale dinosaur encounters, dramatic survival moments, and expanded glimpses of the expedition's journey through the abandoned InGen facility. Airing during the Super Bowl exposed the film to one of the year's largest television audiences and became a major component of Universal's international promotional strategy. Online discussion surrounding the advertisement generated millions of views and social media interactions within hours of its release, reinforcing the film's status as one of the most anticipated blockbusters of the 2025 summer season. The promotional campaign continued throughout the spring with the release of the second official trailer on May 20, 2025, providing a more detailed look at the story, character relationships, and the escalating dangers awaiting the expedition, while revealing additional footage of the film's action sequences, including the Quetzalcoatlus nest, the Mosasaurus attack, and the abandoned InGen laboratory. The trailer continued to conceal the full appearance and role of the Destritus rex, preserving the creature as one of the film's principal theatrical surprises. The second trailer further emphasized the film's themes of survival, scientific ethics, corporate greed, and humanity's inability to control the forces of nature, while showcasing John Mathiesen's lush cinematography, Alexander Desplat's sweeping musical score, and Gareth Edwards' combination of suspense, adventure, and large-scale spectacle. As part of its worldwide merchandising campaign, Universal partnered with numerous major consumer brands to expand the film's promotional reach beyond theaters. Mattel launched an extensive collection of action figures, electronic dinosaurs, vehicles, playsets, and collector items based on the film's characters and prehistoric creatures, including several of the newly introduced species. The LEGO Group simultaneously introduced multiple construction sets inspired by key scenes from the movie, allowing fans to recreate locations such as the abandoned InGen facility, the Quetzalcoatl's temple, and various dinosaur encounters. The merchandising program also included collectibles, apparel, books, and licensed consumer products released internationally ahead of the film's theatrical debut. Universal also collaborated with several corporate marketing partners to promote the film across multiple platforms. Convenience store chains 7-Eleven, Speedway, and Stripes offered exclusive promotional products, themed beverages, collectible cups, and customer sweepstakes tied to the film's release, while Funko produced a special series of pulp vinyl figures featuring the movie's principal characters and dinosaurs. These partnerships significantly expanded the film's visibility in retail stores throughout North America and other international markets, contributing to one of the franchise's largest merchandising campaigns since Jurassic World, 2015. The promotional campaign additionally featured crossover advertising with professional sports. NBA superstar Shai Gilgeous-Alexander appeared in a nationally televised commercial promoting Jurassic World Rebirth during the 2025 NBA playoffs, introducing the film to millions of basketball viewers and broadening its appeal beyond traditional science fiction audiences. The advertisement combined humorous interactions with dinosaur imagery while reinforcing the film's action-oriented marketing campaign. Despite Universal's aggressive digital marketing strategy, lead actress Scarlett Johansson notably declined the studio's request to create an Instagram account specifically to promote the film. Johansson, who has long maintained a limited presence on social media, explained that she believed Jurassic World Rebirth was a sufficiently strong and recognizable property that it did not require her participation on social networking platforms to achieve commercial success. While she chose not to join Instagram, Johansson remained actively involved in the film's publicity through traditional interviews, press appearances, premiere events, and promotional videos. She also participated in a dedicated online feature highlighting Mattel's Jurassic World Rebirth toy line, helping introduce the collection to younger audiences while supporting one of the campaign's major merchandising partners. Overall, Universal Pictures' comprehensive marketing strategy successfully combined traditional advertising, digital media, licensed merchandise, sports partnerships, retail promotions, and nostalgic appeals to the original Jurassic Park, generating substantial anticipation ahead of the film's release. By emphasizing Gareth Edwards' return to suspense-driven filmmaking, David Koepp's involvement as screenwriter, the franchise's practical filmmaking approach, and the introduction of a completely new caster and storyline, the campaign effectively positioned Jurassic World Rebirth as both a respectful homage to Spielberg's groundbreaking original film and the beginning of a bold new chapter for one of cinema's most enduring blockbuster franchises. Jurassic World Rebirth was a major commercial success, grossing $339.6 million in the United States and Canada and $532.8 million in international markets, for a worldwide total of $872.4 million against a reported production budget of $188,225 million. The film became the sixth highest-grossing film of 2025 worldwide, reaffirming the enduring global popularity of the Jurassic Park franchise more than 3 decades after the release of Steven Spielberg's original film. Despite opening in an intensely competitive summer marketplace that included several major blockbuster releases, Jurassic World Rebirth performed strongly throughout its theatrical run, benefiting from positive audience turnout, premium format screenings, and the continued international appeal of the franchise. Its worldwide earnings also established the film as one of Universal Pictures' biggest releases of the year and demonstrated that audiences remained eager for new stories set within the Jurassic universe. Prior to the film's release, industry analysts predicted a highly successful debut during the extended 4th of July holiday weekend in the United States and Canada. Early tracking from The Hollywood Reporter projected a 5-day opening between $100 million and $125 million, while Deadline Hollywood estimated an even stronger debut in the range of $115 million to $135 million. As advance ticket sales accelerated and audience awareness continued to grow, industry forecasts became increasingly optimistic. During release week, Deadline Hollywood revised its expectations, predicting a global opening of approximately $260 million, including a domestic 5-day debut of $130 million. By July 5, 2025, following exceptionally strong early attendance, projections increased once again, with analysts forecasting a worldwide opening approaching $312 million. The film officially opened on July 2, 2025, earning an impressive $30.5 million on its first day in North America. The strong opening immediately prompted analysts to increase their projected 5-day domestic debut to approximately $133.5 million. Momentum continued on the second day, when the film added another $25.3 million, leading industry observers to raise expectations further to $137.5 million. On Independence Day, July 4, Jurassic World Rebirth generated an additional $26.3 million, prompting Deadline Hollywood to revise its estimated 5-day opening upward once more to $141.2 million. The film's strongest daily performance arrived on July 5, when it earned $35.6 million, resulting in yet another increase in projected opening revenue to $145.3 million. Ultimately, Jurassic World Rebirth exceeded nearly every major box office forecast, debuting with $147.8 million over the 5-day 4th of July holiday frame, including $92 million during the traditional 3-day weekend. The film comfortably opened at number 1 at the North American box office while simultaneously launching to $322.6 million worldwide during its extended opening period, marking one of the largest global debuts of 2025. The impressive performance reflected strong audience demand, particularly for premium large-format screenings such as IMAX, Dolby Cinema, ScreenX, and 4DX, which significantly boosted ticket revenues during the holiday weekend. In its second weekend, the film earned $40.3 million, representing a 56.2% decline from its opening 3-day weekend. Although it relinquished the top position to the newly released Superman, Jurassic World Rebirth continued to attract substantial audiences and demonstrated steady box office endurance throughout the remainder of its theatrical run. It ultimately concluded its domestic release with $339.6 million, finishing as the 7th highest-grossing film of 2025 in the United States and Canada and further cementing the Jurassic Park franchise as one of Hollywood's most consistently successful blockbuster properties. Internationally, Jurassic World Rebirth proved equally successful, earning $532.8 million across overseas markets and accounting for more than 61% of its worldwide box office total. The film performed particularly well in Asia, Europe, and Latin America, where the Jurassic Park franchise has traditionally maintained a strong fan base. In India, the film established a new franchise record by achieving the highest opening day gross of any Jurassic film without the benefit of preview screenings, reflecting exceptionally strong audience anticipation. It also enjoyed robust performances across numerous international territories, with China emerging as the film's largest overseas market at approximately $41 million, followed by the United Kingdom with $16.6 million, Mexico with $13.9 million, and Germany with $7.6 million. Strong attendance was also reported throughout several additional European, Latin American, and Asia-Pacific territories, where the film benefited from wide theatrical distribution and premium format presentations. The film reached an important milestone shortly after completing its first full week of release, when its worldwide box office total climbed to nearly $410 million, confirming its status as one of the year's biggest global hits. It also demonstrated notable staying power in China, where it remained number 1 at the box office during its second weekend, adding $11.1 million and outperforming several local and international competitors. Continued strong international attendance, combined with steady domestic earnings, enabled Jurassic World Rebirth to surpass $872 million worldwide, making it one of the highest-grossing entries in the Jurassic Park franchise and one of the most commercially successful films released in 2025. Jurassic World Rebirth received mixed reviews from critics upon its release, with reviewers divided over whether the film successfully revitalized the long-running Jurassic Park franchise. While many praised Gareth Edwards' direction, the film's spectacular visual presentation, suspense-driven action, practical filmmaking techniques, cinematography, sound design, and the performances of the principal cast of particularly Scarlett Johansson, Jonathan Bailey, and Michelle Alia. Others criticized its derivative storyline, uneven screenplay, familiar narrative structure, underdeveloped supporting characters, and reliance on nostalgia. Although opinions varied widely, a significant number of critics agreed that Rebirth represented a noticeable improvement over the previous Jurassic World installments, particularly Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, 2018, and Jurassic World Dominion, 2022, thanks to its renewed emphasis on survival horror, contained storytelling, and the suspenseful atmosphere that characterized Steven Spielberg's original Jurassic Park, 1993. However, many reviewers also argued that despite its technical accomplishments and entertaining set-pieces, the film stopped short of meaningfully evolving the franchise or establishing a bold new creative direction. On the review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes, Jurassic World Rebirth holds an approval rating of 50% based on 404 critic reviews, with an average rating of 5.6. The website's critical consensus states, "Going back to basics with rip-roaring set pieces and fossilized glitch A copyright-esque, Jurassic World Rebirth doesn't evolve this prehistoric franchise but does restore some of its most reliable DNA." The consensus reflected the prevailing critical opinion that while the film successfully recaptured much of the tension, adventure, and cinematic spectacle associated with the franchise's earliest entries, it relied heavily on familiar storytelling conventions and offered relatively few genuinely new ideas. On Metacritic, which assigns a weighted average score, the film received 50 out of 100 based on 55 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. Meanwhile, audiences surveyed by CinemaScore awarded the film a B grade on an A+ to F scale, suggesting generally positive audience reactions that were somewhat stronger than those of professional critics, though less enthusiastic than the reception enjoyed by many previous blockbuster entries in the franchise. Early critical reactions immediately following the film's premiere reflected this divide. Numerous reviewers praised Gareth Edwards for successfully restoring the franchise's sense of scale, suspense, and visual grandeur, while others argued that the screenplay failed to capitalize on its promising premise. Many critics observed that David Koepp's return as screenwriter resulted in a story more closely aligned with the tone of the original Jurassic Park, emphasizing isolation, scientific curiosity, and survival over the globe-spanning spectacle of the preceding trilogy. Others, however, believed the film relied too heavily on callbacks to Spielberg's classic without introducing enough fresh concepts to justify another installment. Writing for Variety, Peter Debreuge described Jurassic World Rebirth as an updated version of the cinematic experience Steven Spielberg originally delivered more than 3 decades earlier. While acknowledging the film's entertaining adventure and polished craftsmanship, he argued that it ultimately felt non-essential within the broader mythology of the franchise and offered little indication of where the series might evolve in future installments. David Rooney of The Hollywood Reporter offered a more favorable assessment, praising Gareth Edwards' admiration for Spielberg's filmmaking style and highlighting the numerous visual homages to classic adventure films, so particularly the ocean sequences that intentionally recalled Jaws, 1975. Rooney concluded that although Rebirth was unlikely to rank among the franchise's finest entries, longtime fans would nevertheless find much to enjoy in its action, suspense, and nostalgic atmosphere. Several critics considered the film a welcome return to form after the poorly received Jurassic World Dominion. Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian praised the film's energetic Spielberg-inspired set pieces, entertaining pacing, and the chemistry between its lead characters, describing it as a significant improvement over the franchise's recent installments. Similarly, Bill Bria of The Wrap argued that while Jurassic World Rebirth could never escape comparisons with the groundbreaking original film, it nevertheless succeeded as an enjoyable, well-crafted blockbuster. He likened the movie to a well-made cheeseburger, familiar rather than revolutionary, but still satisfying for audiences seeking accessible summer entertainment. Peter Hammond of Deadline Hollywood also responded positively, acknowledging that the premise required viewers to accept an implausible mission centered on harvesting dinosaur DNA, but concluding that audiences willing to embrace that concept would be rewarded with an entertaining adventure filled with suspense and spectacle.